This is Sybert signing into Red Alert 3 on the map Fire Island for the August Ladder Wars Finals in the North. As the Yellow Soviets, it's Dimon. Going Crane first. We'll have to see exactly what he's got planned for that. In the South, as the Cyan Empire, this is FlodeInto. With the finals, a little bit late on that refinery placement. I don't know if that's bugged or it's just he's looking somewhere else. That's a 10-15 second delay on this refinery. This is one of those annoying things that does occasionally happen. Shouldn't make a difference in this game, but, you know, always annoying when it does happen regardless. All right, so it's into double refinery for Dimon. By the way, I do want to mention this is the finals. You know, you got lots of games potentially to happen. But Dimon is playing random. He did strike Soviets in this first game, and I know lots of people like watching Dimon as playing Soviets and don't like watching Dimon play any other faction. Right into a super reactor, and this MCV should be heading south for an expansion either out on the water or here on the land. But, one single flak trooper there. It's not necessarily a Tesla push. He could turn south. He could turn north and drop a cheeky expansion up here on the northern section of the map, but no. Alright, so this MCV is heading right down the middle of the map, right for FlodeInto's base, and it is critical for FlodeInto to develop some kind of plan to stop this. He is most likely fully aware of this. I assume he had a burst drone scouting this out, and could be what that flak trooper was chasing down, but super reactor, very important in this case. There's no walls around the super reactor at the current moment. He's walling in his harvesters first. Going to be getting a little bit of protection. Ooh, MCV cell right out of the gate for FlodeInto, and he's actually going to be pulling his harvester off the line to try and kill these bears so that he can get something out of his barracks, because, of course, his barracks is completely locked down. A barracks going to be coming down for Dimon, a sentry gun, and a Tesla coil to follow that up. A terror drone, no, this is indeed a Tengu, not a terror drone, going to be getting scared away from that harvester by the flak trooper and going to be attacking the super reactor. Of course, the super reactor clutch in this moment directly into the tier 2 on this mecha bay, and that super reactor is important for FlodeInto to kill and for Dimon to keep alive, with potentially an engineer popping on out of that barracks. Additional wall is going to be going down. The first sentry gun does indeed go down, and this, well, the harvester also gets eliminated as these flak troopers try and deal with its first chopper VX. The second chopper VX now out on the field is completely locking down these two tank busters, which means this Tesla coil is going to survive a little bit longer. In the north, it looks like the super reactor was completely healed up, and another engineer could be on the way. No, it's actually going to be a bear getting trapped inside of the walls there. Dimon laying his cards on the table here, and he gets the kill on the tier 2 mecha bay, and it's not necessarily totally lights out. Dimon still can be defeated from this situation, and that would be great for FlodeInto to develop a first win right out of the gate, but it's functionally over. Again, FlodeInto, can he win with just a barracks? Technically, yes. Is it likely in any sense? No. FlodeInto was already not favored in this match. The only player who can really consistently beat Dimon, and that's a questionable statement even in itself, is DDF. And DDF is not here in the finals, but we'll have to see. FlodeInto does technically have 2 barracks. He can get this harvester back online. I don't know actually what the unit production is like when you've got 2 oil derricks and a harvester. But in this case, FlodeInto is definitely going to have an uphill battle to fight, winning a game with literally only infantry. And of course, his only anti-air is the burst drone, and well, that's not going to work out very well in this case. Chopper VX is going to be targeting down that ore refinery, and Tank Buster is going to be trying to break down this wall so that they can deal with the War Factory. Of course, no early crushing out from our Empire player. A little bit of splits going on there by FlodeInto, and these these sickles are going to be doing a good job of trading against this infantry. There's the splits to try and avoid the jump from the sickle, but this attack is now over. One bullfrog should be able to come on out now that there are 3 sickles that have dealt with the majority of this infantry. 1 sickle going to be jumping back just in time, and Dimon doing everything that he can to keep every single unit alive. First bullfrog to survive, steps on out, And, yep, that's pretty much that. The last couple of vehicles for FlodeInto are being eliminated by these sickles. And the Bullfrog will take a smidge more damage, but nothing to worry about. A couple of more sickles may end up going down just to the sheer numbers of these tank busters. And this Tengu, he's going to try and survive for as long as he can. No sneaky engineer cap attempts going to be made by FlodeInto. Would be one option that he has. And, These tank buster numbers are actually pretty darn good, and considering that all of the sickles have now been eliminated, Dimon actually has a bit of trouble here. He may have to transition into trying to just get out conscripts or bears to try and deal with this, but of course there is... Is he actually low on cash? He might actually be low on cash. One bear does get out, and Dimon actually having difficulty dealing with this attack by FlodeInto, so this Tesla coil push has turned completely around on him, and... Never give up is what they say if your name is FlodeInto, because he's just won game number 1 against Dimon. I was ready to write this guy out, but he turned it around. And Dimon, I mean, you know, he could have gone potentially into air, but he just didn't have the cash. I guess with that, even with the MCV cell, he was just too low on income to effectively transition. And I mean, of course, hammer tanks can potentially crush, but again, maybe he felt like he didn't have the time. And that will do it for game number 1, FlodeInto, with a great opening in this series. Although, you know, a Tesla coil push does definitely put things on a short timer, so someone's going to win or lose very quickly. And that will do it for game number 1. Let's jump into game number 2. Which takes us to Snowplow in the north as our Orange Empire waving the flag. This is FlodeInto taking that game number 1 in style and fashion. No, really? Again? All right. In the south as the Purple Soviets, once again playing random and drawing Soviets, it's Dimon. Now, of course, a crane first doesn't necessarily mean a Tesla coil push right out of the gate. There are a lot of walls going up, and this map is pretty good for pushing, but maybe the barracks, or maybe the additional bridges on this map, creating sort of a 5-route map, may actually be kind of beneficial to FlodeInto. One flak trooper comes right out. It's a double refinery, and there's the pack-up of the MCV. Super reactor on the way for Dimon. And FlodeInto knows that this is coming. He's got that burst drone there. It's going to be hunted down by that flak trooper, and eventually that harvester will be free. I guess it's free right now, but FlodeInto is well aware of what's happening, and he's done it in Game 1. Can he do it again in Game 2? Can he sort of repeat himself here? And we'll have to see. This is going to be a tough ask. He does manage to grab both oil derricks, so that is going to be an essential part of his defense. Probably into the Tier 2. I think it gets started there. He may be a little bit low on cash, and he gets himself an additional barracks. He's got potentially 2 barracks. No, he's sold both of his barracks off that were split to the edges. So no additional barracks in sneaky locations. And here we go. It's a repeat of last game. Notable... no, it's actually going to be a flak cannon instead of a sentry gun right out of the gate, and no additional bears. So Dimon saved himself 3 bears worth of credits to get out his Tesla coil a little bit faster. And I guess you could call this an optimization of the build. Of course, the Tesla coil will kill pretty much anything that the Empire can put out at the current moment. Right into Tier 2 goes that Mecha Bay, and FlodeInto now has the beginnings of this. He's going to be losing his Mecha Bay relatively shortly, and of course with a flak cannon here, unlike last time where Dimon was just kind of hoping that his flak troopers would be able to deal with those chopper VXs, and this is a much cleaner execution of this build. A reactor going to be going down as well, and I assume this is just for a little bit of base creeping so he can get his Tesla coils that much closer to this refinery. First Tesla coil here, and we'll be able to start working on the tank buster. Or oh my gosh, he can reach that Defender VX. I thought that was out of range. I think FlodeInto also thought that that was out of range. Power plant should probably be the next target for this Tesla coil, and that power plant is also in range, so this is much closer to a lights-out situation. FlodeInto might be able to turn something around. War Factory gets canceled. Crusher Crane going to be the target, and the barracks is here, but Another crusher crane can just be reconstructed in this same location, so I don't know how good of a plan this is necessarily going to be. It's an escape out onto the water for FlodeInto. He does have the 2 oil derricks, so he can stick around in this game for a little while longer. Goodbye, Striker, and he gets the kill! The crusher crane goes down, which will slow this build down slightly, but not necessarily enough to make a big difference. Once again, the tank buster numbers are starting to build up. The MCV has escaped out onto the water. Not really. It's still definitely within range of potential Tesla coils. And, well, an additional Defender VX core is going to be going down. Of course, Tesla coils will outrange that. And I'm curious as to how exactly Dimon is planning on dealing with this. This time he goes into the airfield. Now he's killed the Mecha Bay. There's no Tengus. There's no Strikers. There's no anti-air other than this Defender core from our Empire player. And you could try and get out a Naval Yard, but honestly, a Naval Yard isn't going to be doing you a ton of help in this case. If you could produce Tengus from a Tier 1 Naval Yard, then yeah, that would be a little bit better there. But the Tesla push has been pushed back. 1 refinery is down. The 2nd refinery did take some heavy damage, but it is still alive and well. First Twin Blade is out on the map. And still no War Factory, still no additional Crusher Crane, and this MCV getting slowed down. The Twin Blade is going to take a long time to kill all of that infantry, so he's instead going to be going directly for the infrastructure. I don't know if he's just going to try and kill the Harvester. Yeah, he's going to hang out next to this refinery and go for the kill that way. First MiG is also out on the field just to try and deal with the eventual Tengus that will show up, but I don't know that it's necessarily going to be, well, he may actually, between the, oh, he does get some damage on that Twin Blade, and the Harvester is off the line, so of course that's just as good as killing it. Maybe not just as good, but that's almost as good as killing it. And, well, these Twin Blades will eventually clean up all of this infantry. And the MCV trying to go for the crushes, and FlodeInto, I think this is going to be a much more of a slow death for FlodeInto into this case. 2 MiGs are out on the field. Point defense drones being utilized to give that Harvester, that refinery core, a little bit of extra health. There should still be a barracks. Yeah, there is still a barracks for an engineer. And that's a Vet 1. Oh, and there's actually flak troopers inside of this Twin Blade. So that Twin Blade actually has a lot of cost in it if it goes down. There's a lot of cash spent on that one single Twin Blade. And, well, I guess these flak troopers are going to probably pop on out, and that'll be a lot of firepower directly onto this MCV. Again, FlodeInto, is it likely that he wins from this place? No. Miracles do happen. That last game, a bit of a misstep from Dimon. Harvester getting the kill on pretty much all of those flak troopers, and Dimon should go ahead and target down. Ooh, he missed the Defender when it was actually a core. He missed doing the damage to it then. And he's instead just going to be continuing to focus on the MCV. And, of course, that will be the final shutdown of our Empire player. No production facilities, no money to speak of, or nowhere to spend the money that he does have. He actually has decent income. But, oh, that must have been like a bit of a lag bug. All right, there we go. FlodeInto has been defeated. GG gets called. And now it's 1-1 with FlodeInto pulling a miracle defense and Dimon pulling a brutal attack in game number 2. Game number 3 will set the pace and will reset for who is in the lead in this series. Let's jump right there, right now. Which takes us to the classic, the ever-present Infinity Isle on the left side as our Orange Empire. It's FlodeInto. And on the right side, once again going Crane first, drawing Soviets 3 times in a row randomly. This is Dimon. And I guess Dimon heard that people don't like Allied turret pushes, and so he's like, you don't like Allied turret pushes? Let me show you a Soviet turret push. Now, it wouldn't necessarily work as well against Allies, because of course multi-gunner turrets and laser lock from Javelin troopers are tools that help you better deal with this sort of a push. Once again, FlodeInto has all of the information. He may actually go for both oil derricks. One single bear coming out for Dimon, going to be a flak trooper and an engineer. So he's looking to grab that. Ooh, he barely misses the bear though. And he's going to try and desperately go for this capture of the oil derrick. FlodeInto securing that income and taking away that 500 credits from Dimon, who has already spent the 500 credits on the engineer. that is about as good of a situation as you can ask for. No, it looks like the Dojo Core is going to be delayed a little bit longer in grabbing that oil derrick, but there are 3, now 4 or 5 Imperial Warriors all heading in. And FlodeInto, he's getting another chance against one of the best Soviet players in the game right now to test his mettle, in a tournament final series. But to test his mettle against this build repeatedly, this is like a training session. Dimon, if he's coaching you, this might be part of the coaching. Sentry Gun going to be going down at the front end. There's the oil derrick cap. The engineer heading all the way back out to the back of the base. And of course, at this point, dumping a huge amount of cash into infantry is a wise choice. Completely foregoing a mecha bay is FlodeInto. He's going triple barracks? I think he's got 4 barracks currently actively on the map. This one not so much producing anything, but that's fast reinforcements. And this MCV taking a lot of damage. Walls getting dropped in its way, and of course the MCV can kind of crush walls, as you see there. And unfortunately for FlodeInto, he doesn't quite manage to stop the MCV, but this put a serious damper on Dimon's build. Into aircraft, he of course immediately goes. Twin Blade to transport this combat engineer somewhere on this map, and into a naval yard. Now, of course, the curious thing is naval yard, you still need tier 2 for those sea wings, but going into a tier 2 mecha or naval yard is cheaper than a tier 2 mecha bay. And unfortunately for FlodeInto, he can't quite touch that MCV out there on the water. So it could be a couple of base defenses going on to the to kind of start a base creep. Is he gonna? He's going for a cap of the naval yard. Dimon not letting up, and he's gonna force the cell, or he's gonna capture. Oh, he captures the naval yard, and now Dimon has completely shut down and gotten, in fact, some cash back for that engineer. That may actually be better than going for the oil derrick. That has bought so much time for Dimon to try and make this push happen. The mecha bay is indeed out. The first harvester goes down. Keep in mind, it's still 2 refineries, or 2 oil derricks, excuse me, behind this for FlodeInto, and he's got a decent amount of infantry. Oh man, if FlodeInto gets one more wall segment out, if he could have, formed a little, like, 3 or 4 wall segment, he may have actually been able to do something in this game. He may have actually been able to make something happen. That Tengu, his fate was horrible, and this is the attempt for FlodeInto to make something different happen. He's not going tier 2 directly out of that mecha bay, and it is not working out for him. Of course, Tengus against triple MiG is going to be a difficult position to fight from. A single sentry gun already up and running is going to be difficult to overwhelm, but with this many tank busters, he should be able to do it. There goes the power, and the production is now dramatically slower. Both harvesters are back online, but that is not really going to be doing a whole lot for his situation. FlodeInto is going to bum rush the barracks. He's going to be going for the kill here, and he is going to be able to take down the sentry gun pretty quick. The MCV is, of course, safe out on the water, slowly repairing up, so Dimon just needs to make sure that he's got 1 refinery out there on the water, and he's pretty much safe for the rest of the game. I mean, he's pretty safe anyways, considering he's got twin blades against units that can't shoot up, and 3 or 4 MiGs running around the map. Now that finally, Tier 2 is now here for FlodeInto, all of his infantry are dead, or pretty close to dead. The Crusher Crane does go down, again, slowing down Dimon just by a hair, if not more than that. And goodbye, Tank Busters. They're all eliminated, just Imperial Warriors, and GG should be getting called momentarily here. FlodeInto would have to truly pull out some kind of a miracle to be... no, he sold off the refiner, so he may actually not be low power mode. It looks like he sold off all of the barracks as well, so he's really putting all of his bets on this one mecha bay, which, of course he can technically get out an MCV, but he just got advanced rocket pods, so these strikers are going to be a little bit more powerful, and Dimon just has to close this out against a 1 refinery opponent. Mecha Bay steps onto land, and by Mecha Bay I mean MCV steps onto land, going to be going toe-to-toe against these strikers and these Tengus. 1 striker in the air, 1 on the ground, and they all get eliminated, but all of the MiGs also go down. The first flak trooper is now, or flak cannon rather, is now here. Satellite's going to be getting called down onto this Mecha Bay, and goodbye striker. It transforms into the air before getting eliminated just on the edge of the range of that flak cannon. It's all down to this harvester for FlodeInto. It is all up to this harvester to do do massive amounts of damage to that MCV. I don't think it's going to be able to happen, but the Twin Blades get the final shot off there on that Mecha Bay. Goodbye, Harvester. Goodbye, Tengu. Goodbye, FlodeInto. GG gets called in. FlodeInto will be dropping game number 3. These are not traditionally good games, but I am actually really enjoying this as really my first series being cast in a little while. Got busy with work, but this is a weird series to come back to. And, you know, some people are probably going to be upset that this series was even played, but I actually really enjoyed seeing how FlodeInto handles this incredibly frustrating situation. And maybe this is a keyboard slamming kind of a situation, but let's see what happens in game number 4. Which takes us to the marina front of Cabana Republic. Hotel Marina. The lovely little fountain statue thing going on there. On the left side, as our purple empire, it's FlodeInto. And on the right side, as our green empire, it's Dimon. Things are looking good for Dimon, but maybe not so much here on Cabana Republic. It's a big map. He's not playing Soviets. He's been dealt random empire, and he is going to be able to, you know, show some different builds. 3 Tesla coil pushes in a row. The first one, a little bit of a misstep there. Overspending, you could say. And as a result, losing that game number 1. But the next 2, successfully executed Tesla coil pushes, which, you know, for FlodeInto's credits, a Tesla coil push by Dimon is very difficult to stop, especially when he realizes his mistake made in game number 1, and then he makes some adjustments to fix how he was playing. So, don't think FlodeInto is a slouch purely because he's losing to Dimon's Tesla coil pushes, because he is not. Although a triple refinery opening does potentially make him vulnerable if Dimon goes super aggro. But Dimon, not necessarily going super aggressive. His first Tengu is out. We'll have to see how FlodeInto deals with this. Of course, the Mecha Bay is going to be pretty severely delayed in comparison. That's one of the trade-offs that you make with this triple refinery opening. And we'll have to see if Dimon is able to completely capitalize on the timing advantage that he has. Mecha Bay now going to be out on the field for FlodeInto, and the additional power plant going to be after that. Ore Collector gets called off the line. It's going to be getting repairs, and, well, this is exactly how you want to start out this game if you're FlodeInto, saving your first Harvester and buying a little bit of time for your couple of Tengus to come on out. He's going to do a little bit of damage to this Tengu, and he's going to try and re-wall up his Harvester, or his refinery, to keep one of those Tengus away. And now, his first Tengu is now out, so it's going to be a micro situation. Who's got better repair, who's got better micro and control of their units. For now, it's 1 refinery and an oil derrick versus 2 refineries and an oil derrick. But of course, Dimon has the disadvantage of having to fly his units across the map, and FlodeInto has the much closer reinforcements. For now, FlodeInto is safe. Who transitions into Tier 2 first is always a question in an EVE. It could be Dimon. No, he's continuing to pump out Tengus. First Harvester does go down. Things are starting to swing, but Dimon is not, you know, clear and free just yet. The focus firing from FlodeInto is going to allow him to eliminate 2 of those Tengus for the current moment, and the other 2 do manage to escape for now. Harvester nearly back online, and Dimon going to be splitting his Tengus, and that is exactly what you want to be doing. Here in the north, 1 Harvester already going down, a second one not even started, so no replacement Harvester just yet, and I don't think this has been worth it overall for FlodeInto. We'll have to see, but he's behind in the Tengu count, and with that Harvester being offline, he has not quite gained enough value from those 3 refineries to make them worth it. Killing this oil derrick would be nice, but it's not going to overcome the Tengu disadvantage. There's a transform from Dimon. He's going to be able to grab 1 of the Tengus. Oh my gosh, if they both manage to escape, that will actually be pretty funny. And nope, the corner does cut off that Tengu, and this refinery has not recovered. So It's not over, but it's a little bit over when you are this far behind in Tengus in a direct mirror matchup against a guy like Dimon. He can safely transition now into Tier 2. He has enough distance in terms of Tengus that he could safely transition into Tier 2 if he wants. A lot of Empire players do like to just sit on their Tengu advantage and try and make it happen this way. With repairs, it's not enough as FlodeInto loses Tengu after Tengu raining down and doing damage to his own Mecha Bay. And now it's just a massive advantage. Dimon in an EVE claims another victory and brings himself one step closer to taking this finals. Fast and furious games. These are, if you're looking to close out a series as quick as you can, these are the builds to copy. And this is definitely not the gentleman's game of... Although that one was pretty normal for an EVE. Like, if you realize that your opponent has gone for a greedy opener... Because, you know, it's Commander Republic and they think they're safe. But if your opponent has gone for a greedy opener like that, then punishing them is the straightforward thing to do, and Tengus are the straightforward unit to do it with. Not a big commitment to infantry from the early game from Dimon. He saved all of that cash to be able to pump it directly into those Tengus. That will do it for our game number 4. Game number 5 could seal the deal or start the comeback for FlodeInto. Which takes us to Temple Prime. On the left side, as the Cyan Empire, it's FlodeInto. And on the right, as the Red Allies, hitting all 3 factions, this is Dimon. Well, Dimon is a scary player to play against, and FlodeInto has done admirably. Definitely far, far better than I would be able to, especially dealing with stuff like Tesla coil pushes. And I mean, EVE Tengu v Tengu spam is never fun because it feels like, you know, every click is a potential misclick that will lose you the entire game. Especially when you're up against a guy like Dimon, who probably, it's one refinery into airfield. So a bit of an airfield rush. It is spotted by FlodeInto right out of the gate. He did open at least triple barracks. So, yeah, so he's down a good bit of cash. He probably would have liked to have saved that cash and gotten out his Mecha Bay just a hair sooner. He is going to be able to grab, potentially... he is definitely going to be able to grab both oil derricks. I guess this one is a little slow. The Vindicator might be able to grab that. Oh no, it's straight into Cryocopter, so it's Apollo Cryocopter. The Tier 2 out for Dimon, and both oil derricks will be grabbed, which means the first Harvester is a little bit recoverable. In terms of when the Harvester gets killed, you can still continue to produce stuff. I think it's right into Tier 2. And, well, keeping around this barracks is now an essential operation. He's producing out of the barracks, which is always a difficult call, because you want the additional units to potentially put pressure on power plants or, you know, kill the airfield if you at all can. But at the same time, you need cash to defend back home. Well... There's the MCV cell. FlodeInto is not starting off particularly well in this case. Engineer gets sniped as well. Vindicator has to go back home. This refinery is pretty much dead. With the placement here, he should be able to hit the refinery from the north. And, well, the Tier 2 Mecha Bay, it takes a little while to freeze, but it doesn't take forever, and we do most likely have additional Cryocopter on the way. Nope, no second Cryocopter just yet. Could be a second one on the way now. 5, 6 Imperial Warriors. That's not a lot of fire output to put on an MCV. And Vindicator can deal with them slowly but surely. Of course, 2 Cryocopters will deal with this base a little bit more quickly. And I think this might be lights out for FlodeInto. He has dealt with all of the possible types of cheese coming out from Dimon. So this is, I guess, a training school. GG gets called. And Dimon is your August Ladder Wars champion. Definitely ending on kind of a low note, so hopefully those first couple games were entertaining enough to suffice. But, I really like those first 3 games. You know, I appreciate that FlodeInto was the one playing against Dimon. Because, again, any kind of turret rush is difficult to play against, and, he really should have seen that Cryo Rush coming. I would have probably played as if the Cryo Rush was coming even before you scout, And, well, that will do it for this game, for this series. Good game to float into, but of course, Dimon is undefeated in this case. And by undefeated, I mean he lost one game, but he won the tournament. And that will wrap up the August Ladder Wars. Thank you all very much for watching. Thank you I hope you enjoyed it, and this is Sybert signing out.